If you think about sales as coming from a place of service, a lot of that fear of selling is just going to start melting away.
You're listening to Thrive by Design, business, marketing, and lifestyle strategies for your jewelry brand to flourish and thrive. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast. I'm Tracy Matthews, your host today, and I'm thrilled to be here as usual. And I'm excited because I can't believe it. Where has this year gone? It's already the middle of August, and we are on episode number 54. We've almost been doing this podcast for an entire year, which just blows my mind because the time has totally flown. And every week when I'm recording new episodes, I'm always thinking about, what can I talk about this week? What have we been hearing in the communities? How can I help the jewelry designers in the Flourish and Thrive Academy community and beyond have successful jewelry businesses? And how can I help them overcome the things that are holding them back from success in business? Because it's truly my belief that anyone who is willing and has a desire can have a successful business selling their art, and in this case, hopefully beautiful jewelry. So today on episode 54, I wanted to talk about how to overcome your fear of selling. Now, there is nothing worse to be debilitated by fear, especially when it comes to sales, because I feel like when you're selling your own product, there are a lot of different things that come into play. I think one of the biggest things that come into play is not necessarily the idea of selling, but kind of more that fear of rejection. Like you're going to put yourself out there and no one's going to respond, or or someone's going to say, no, I don't like it. And you take that personally because you feel as though your jewelry and art is an extension of you. Well, I'm here to kind of give you some of the tips that I've used over the years to build sales confidence and to help myself kind of overcome any fear of rejection that I've ever had. Now, I know overcoming this fear of selling can be a stressful one, especially when you're selling your own product, because oftentimes that feels very personal because you're being artistic, you're being creative, and that might feel like a part of you. Well, I'm going to give you some tactics today to kind of get over that. But first, I want to share a little story about my sister, Carly. So Carly is one of my younger sisters. She's not the youngest technically, but she is the youngest from my two parents. And Carly and I are complete opposites in a lot of ways. So I'm 8 years older than Carly. So when she was graduating from college, I kept trying to get her to work for my company because she has a very analytical mind. I'm an extrovert. She's an introvert. She really likes to break things down. She likes systems and numbers. So she's really the complete opposite of me, this creative person who definitely enjoys business. But if I could hand that stuff off, I'd much rather to any day. So right after college, when Carly graduated, there was a housing boom, which I'm sure many of you had experienced or heard of. And instead of working for me, she went to go work for a mortgage broker. And she ended up her first year out of college making a killing, financially. She, most college grads, their first year out of school are making $30,000, $40,000. Probably depends on your profession, of course. But she was making six figures right out of the gate, which I thought was so crazy because I don't even think I was making six figures at that time personally in my income. So I was I really admired that she kind of went after, a job where she could, feel like she financially supported herself. Well, she decided to move on from that company and she ended up moving to Arizona to move on to a new housing venture. And unfortunately, after a couple of years, it fell through and she didn't end up getting paid a lot of her commission. So she kind of had to start over and find a new career. So she was moving back to California from Arizona right around the time that I was moving to New York City. And she told me she was moving back and she told me what had happened. And I was like, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but do you want to come and work with me? You could be my operations manager. So she ended up moving to New York and being my operations manager, and she worked for me for several years. And I really approached her working with me sort of like a partnership, especially because she was my sister. But one of the things, I used to look at her computer when she was working, and her screensaver said something that I always thought was so cool. It said, do something that scares you every day. So I'd sit there every day as I would be, plugging along, looking over her shoulder, seeing her screensaver pop up when she was doing something else or maybe shipping orders or working with the team or whatever. And I thought that was cool because one of the things, I know Carly very well, obviously, she's my sister. But one of the things that I do know about her too is that she's a lot more resistant to change, especially, she always has been a little bit resistant to change. I don't know why I'm telling you that, except for the fact that moving through fear and doing things that don't seem safe don't come naturally to her. And it actually really terrifies her. I know that she was really scared, even though she took the position to move to New York to start over. I mean, I think she was really excited about it, but it was also scary. She was starting without a really stable position. She was coming to work for a startup. It wasn't like a big company was backing me or anything like that. She was going to have to take a huge pay cut from what she had been making straight out of college. And, it was a risk. New York City is an expensive place to live. She didn't know if she would like it, but she was up for the adventure and she went after it and went, against everything that was sort of paralyzing her in the moment to not do it and move through that to sort of move to New York. Now, fast forward a few years later, things obviously changed in my business. My business failed at a certain point. And when I closed my business, Carly, during that time, sort of when we were deciding what to do and deciding if we keep the business running or she just leaves the business because she was thinking about taking another course of action, she decided to do another thing that really scared her, which was go back to school. And it seemed like a crazy thing to do at the time because she had been in New York making less of a salary, and now she was going to be going to Columbia, paying this huge tuition bill to go get her master's in organizational psychology. So that was another time when she took this step, moving through something that really scared her, to take the next step in her life. And, fast forward a couple years, she ended up leaving the company and going to work for Bank of America after she graduated. And now she is a recruiter over at Bloomberg. And, I've been so amazed at watching her because I always remember looking at that screensaver and just knowing Carly, change is not easy for her, and doing things that scare her really, really can terrify her and debilitate her at times. If she listens to this podcast, she's probably going to kill me for sharing this story. But I was so proud of her because she always took steps on a daily basis to do things that scared her. And I think that's really, really an important thing to keep in the back of your mind. And if you want to right now, download a screensaver or create your own screensaver that says, do something every day that scares you, because it will be a huge motivating force, especially when it comes to sales. So today I want to talk about, in episode 54, how to overcome a fear of selling. So I know that, as I mentioned before, having your own business can be terrifying, and especially when you're selling your own product, because it is so personal. So I can't wait to dive into that momentarily. But before we do, I wanted to share a little word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Nina Designs. I love Nina Designs for so many reasons, but primarily is because they have really unique and incredible jewelry findings, supplies, you name it, that are actually designed by jewelry designers for jewelry designers. That's right, Nina Cooper is actually a jewelry designer, the owner of the company, and so they're designing like a designer, which is super, super cool. They have a variety of different kinds of supplies, including charms, pendants, leather, tassels, silks, gemstones, and pearls, you name it. They kind of cover everything. And Nina Designs is also amazing because for the past 30 years, they've been inspiring beauty and creativity while still caring for people and the planet. They're a really sustainable, awesome company, and any jewelry designer would love to work with them, and you should too. But even more importantly, we all want to work with good peeps, and I just love Nina as a person. She's great. If you haven't listened to it yet, make sure that you check out episode number 53 because I interview Nina, who is rad. But even cooler is that Nina is offering a discount for the Flourish and Thrive by Design community off your order. So you can grab $10 off by using the code THRIVE when you go to ninadesigns.com. So make sure you check out everything that Nina Designs is doing, which is super cool. And if you're joining us for our live event in September, you are super lucky because Nina Cooper of Nina Designs is going to be one of the keynote speakers. Grab your discount, go to Nina Designs, use the code THRIVE when you check out, all good. Okay, so let's dive right into today's episode, how to overcome your fear of selling. So working through your fears can be really, really tough. There's this great quote by a man named Fritz Perls, and I always loved it. I used to quote it all the time in yoga class. If you listen to this podcast, I probably said it over and over again several times. But it goes something like this. Fear is just excitement without the breath. Fear is just the excitement without the breath. So if you think of it that way, fear is nothing more than just energy. Even though it feels debilitating, it's just energy. And we can change that at any moment by taking actions towards what scares us and also breathing through it, just adding a little breath. Maybe that fear would transform into something that's a little bit more exciting, which I definitely think sales can be super exciting if you have the right mindset and approach. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about a story that happened with me when I started my first jewelry business. I started designing jewelry when I was in college. There's a little bit of a backstory there, which I'm not going to dive into today. But I ended up taking an elective in college for this jewelry making class. I really wanted to be a fine arts major, but this was sort of my option to take a humanities major and take this jewelry making class. So I was excited to go in the first day. I loved it. I loved working with my hands. And after a month or so kind of passed in the semester, I realized that I was pretty good at this. And my teacher was super encouraging. And from that point on, from the beginning, I would start selling stuff off my neck, but it wasn't that hard because people were just like, oh, I love your necklace. And I would just be like, oh, thanks, I made it. And they would be like, where can I get one? So I would just make them one, which was pretty cool. And, I don't recall being super fearful about it at that time. I felt really excited. It wasn't until I decided to really make an effort and start my own business and go full force into selling my work that it became paralyzingly fearful. In fact, I've told this story many times before. When I first started my business in 1998, Tracy Matthews Designs, I rented a little studio space and I'd already been selling in a few stores. I was already doing trunk shows and house parties, doing a lot of things to get my work onto, sort of family and friends of friends and stuff like that. But this was serious. I committed. I got an office space. I was working in a studio. I was basically holding myself accountable to make stuff happen, right? And every day I would go into that office and I would be terrified to pick up the phone because in 1998, there wasn't really email. People didn't communicate over email. It was all through snail mail and picking up the phone to call. And every time I would pick up the phone to call one of the local boutiques, my heart would start pounding out of my chest. I would talk myself out of calling them for some reason, oh, the collection's not ready. I would find any excuse in the book to not reach out and to not actually do sales activity. In fact, selling in person was a little bit easier for me because I got to feed off the energy of the people in front of me. And since I'm an extrovert, that actually works well for me. But for those of you who are introverts, hiding behind a computer or typing emails, might be the easier form of selling. So, which is kind of funny. So I come home every day from work. My ex-husband would ask, so how much did you sell today? And I'd be like, oh, I'm still working on my collection, or make a million excuses. And then there came this tipping point about 6 months in. I'm like, I better do something, or I'm not going to actually be able to pay my rent next month. So I got to figure out how to get on the phone. So I started picking up the phone and calling, and I started getting appointments with stores. I would go on these appointments. Some of them would say no, some of them would say not now, and some of them would say maybe next time. And then some of them would actually buy, I should say. So I remember being so nervous to call these stores. And when I would go into the stores, the people were actually really nice. And even when they were saying no, I don't think this is the right fit for our store, or, we're kind of bought out for the season, but I really like what you're doing. Come back next time. I realized, I was creating all this drama in my head for nothing. It really wasn't that big of a deal. And I also, started to gain a little bit more confidence as I started to make more sales. And that kind of gave me the gusto to keep moving forward and to realize that fear of rejection and people saying no to you is just part of the sales process. And it really has nothing to do with you as a human being. It's just part of, the nature of commerce. Not everyone's going to say yes. But if you do want to create a business out of your art, you actually have to learn how to sell what you're doing. So it's really important. So if you are struggling with this fear of sales, I'm going to give you, or fear of selling, I should say, both of them. I'm going to give you some tactical strategies that you can use today to sort of overcome that. So the first one is that you want to make sure that you're every day really believing in yourself. You want to believe that you are good enough and that you deserve this. You need to start the day with a positive self-image. So there's a couple of things that I do in my daily practice to help myself feel more confident. And this might seem cheesy to you or very uncomfortable, and it is uncomfortable in the beginning, but I want you to stand up and I want you to look in the mirror and just tell yourself something amazing about yourself that you love about yourself. So that's just like the first step to build confidence. If you love your blue eyes, tell yourself like you have the most beautiful blue eyes. Or if you love, your smile, tell yourself that you love your smile. Focus on the things that you love about yourself and start positively. So if you're always thinking about what could go wrong, it's easy to fall down that rabbit hole spiral. So think about what possibly could go right. Think about the things that are good in your life. Start your day writing a gratitude list. These are all things that you can do to start your day and really be in a positive mindset and to keep a positive self-image. So the first thing is to believe in yourself that you are good enough and keep a positive self-image of yourself and your situation. So now with this positive mindset and having this positive self-image, you want to make sure that you're thinking of sales as coming from a place of service. Now, this is an interesting concept because at the end of the day, you're helping whoever your end customer is, whoever you're selling to, do their job, feel more beautiful, be the person that they're meant to be. So if you think about sales as coming from a place of service, a lot of that fear of selling is just going to start melting away. So think about it. If you wholesale your jewelry line and you're selling to stores, they need products to sell to actually run their business and to actually keep the doors open. So you're doing them a service by providing beautiful jewelry for their store. Now, if you are working direct to consumer or, maybe at trunk shows or you're selling your jewelry online where you're working literally directly with the customers, you are doing them a service because you're helping them feel confident about themselves. You're helping them feel beautiful. You're helping them feel like they have this, intrinsic sense of value or that they have some sort of status depending on the type of jewelry that you do. You make them feel flirty and confident, which is cool. So I've shared this story before. Years and years ago, I was on QVC, which was a super interesting and fun experience and kind of life-changing in a lot of ways. But one of the requirements was that I had to go do this pre-show sales training to learn how the kinds of words or how to communicate with the audience and how you wanted to make them feel, because it was all about feelings. And I thought this was really interesting because it's like really this come from a place of service approach. People buy feelings, they don't buy things. They want to know that they're going to feel. One of the things that the words that kept coming up in this QVC training was flirty and sassy and, confident and beautiful, because jewelry makes people feel a certain way. It could make them feel edgy or whatever. But if you understand fully that what you're doing is providing someone these feelings, and that really helps add value to their lives, a lot of this fear of selling is going to start melting away. And you can sell without being salesy. We're not going to really cover that today because this isn't a full-on sales training. It's just really about overcoming your fear of sales. I'm going to actually mention something at the end of the show about our Supercharge Your Sales course, which we're really excited. We released it this week, and we're really excited. It's our newest course all about sales. So more about that momentarily, but let's stay on point here. Think of sales as coming from a place of service, because that's really all it is you're helping people out. And that's a huge mindset shift. So if you ever get afraid to sell, just think to yourself, I'm doing them a service, I'm helping them out. One more example of how sales can come from a place of service is an example from my own business. I design custom jewelry. I work privately with one-on-one clients at the moment. And my business model was developed this way so that I could come from a place of service to help my clients. Typically the type of people I work with are not finding what they want on the market. And in fact, the client that I'm finishing up an engagement ring for right now, Craig and Katie, I designed a rose cut diamond engagement ring for them. They live in Ohio. They were shopping in New York. They saw some rings that they sort of liked, wasn't quite what they wanted. They found my website and saw some designs that they really liked, and I ended up designing a custom ring for them. But I was really doing them a service because they could not find what they were looking for. So think of it that way. Like, how are you changing people's lives? How are you coming from a place of service? Now, the next step, number 3, is to visualize your desired outcome. So this is an important piece. You might have heard of things like the law of attraction, or that thoughts become things. You might have heard this. You've probably seen it all around the interwebs and, heard of it a million times. But it's true. Like, if you can visualize what it is that you want, and that's not the only piece, but if you can visualize what it is that you want or the desired outcome that you'd like, kind of takes away some of that fear. But if you were visualizing what could possibly go wrong, you end up going down that rabbit hole and it just starts to terrify you more. So think about what it is that you want. Go into every sales interaction or selling interaction with the thought of what could possibly go right. And if it doesn't, no big deal. Just remember that it has nothing to do with you if someone says no or if they decide not to buy. And you can use all of those situations as just learning experiences to improve next time. So visualize what you want on the back end. And when your energy is raised and your vibration is raised, I know this sounds like kind of hippy dippy. I can't help it. I'm a former yoga teacher. That's just how I roll, right? If you visualize this desired outcome, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of manifest better results. And you're not magically making anything happen, but it's true. If your vibration is high and you're thinking positively about things and you're visualizing the things that you want in a way that seems possible, those things start to happen as long as you take action, which we're going to talk about. The next step is to use affirmations, especially in the beginning when things are tough and you're feeling really fearful. So I teach this in our Laying the Foundation course, all about affirmations and how to create your own affirmations. So I thought I would share with you the affirmation that I used when I was rebuilding. I had some pretty lofty goals, so don't get attached to the number, but I thought I would share with you sort of when I was trying to rebuild my business, what I wanted to manifest and create out of it. So I created this affirmation that I said every day 25 times in the morning and 25 times every evening. It's interesting because I even recorded myself saying it so that I could listen to it when I was walking around New York City on my way to go teach yoga classes and stuff. And I found that recording recently, and it's from 2011 or something like that, which is pretty cool. So my affirmation goes like this. This is very personal, and this makes me feel a little vulnerable, but I'm going to do it anyway. I earn a profit of $20,000 a month or more for my jewelry business because I attract my dream client who has an unlimited budget, who is more than happy to pay for the amazing value, unsurpassed creativity, and service that I provide for them. I am free from any feelings of lack of self-worth or financial fear. I love to give, and I make the world a better place with my artistic contribution to it. So for me, that affirmation kind of covered everything that I was facing at the time. I was fearful about how I was going to make enough money to live the kind of lifestyle that I wanted, so I got really specific with the numbers. I got fearful that I was going to work with people who were going to nickel and dime with me, so I got really specific about that. I got really clear about the things that I value because I want to be working with people that value me. That is a huge core value of mine in my business, for my jewelry business, is that I only want to be working with people who understand the value that I provide. It's my job to communicate that value, but if people don't get it, like, they're not my peeps, right? I also covered the fact that I had a lot of self-confidence issues at that time. I just closed my business, which felt really humiliating to me because, this was before I knew that a lot of other people were doing the same thing and that a lot of people got wrapped up in the financial struggles of 2008. But at the end of the day, I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I'd spent 11 years of my life building a company that failed, and it sucked. It totally sucked, and I lacked confidence. And I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like anyone was ever going to want to buy jewelry from me again, and it was a hard time for me. I really went through to a dark spot. So I had to focus on changing my mindset to get in that place. And then I wrap it up by saying, that I make the world a better place with my artistic contribution to it, because we all do, right? People need beauty in their lives. They need to cherish things. Maybe it's not a necessity to them. They're not going to, lose their life over not having beautiful things. But there is such a draw towards art and beauty, and you do this for a reason, and people need what you do, and you need to remember that. So create an affirmation that works for you. Think about all the things that are, making you afraid right now. And I would address all of those in your affirmation as you're creating your own. And get really specific about the outcomes that you want. All right, so use affirmations is the 4th step. And then the 5th step is to take action. Do something every day that scares you. Remember my story about Carly, my sister, and her screensaver? Put that screensaver up. Do something every day that scares you, and you'll start taking these tiny baby steps towards overcoming fear, especially when it comes to selling. It's a great tool for other fears that you have in your life, but also a great tool, especially when it comes to things that make you really nervous, like selling. And I just want to close this out today by reiterating that, affirmations are great, keeping a positive self-image of yourself is great, and coming from a place of service, all of these things are great, and visualizing your desired outcome. But all of these things, for the most part, require you to take action and create an action plan towards how you're going to get there. Just thinking positively doesn't get you there. You have to take the steps to get there and move towards whatever it is that you want. And I think that's on a final note, I'd like to leave it there. Take action, do something every day that scares you, and go out and overcome your fear of selling. And I have a great tool for you to help you do that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about our Supercharge Your Sales course. I'm super excited about this course. It's been a long time in the planning. Robin and I have had this idea for this course for a very, very long time. And we're really excited to release it because it's going to be one of the things that's going to be a huge game changer for you in either revving up your sales or increasing your sales, or as we like to say, supercharging your sales, and also getting over some of the roadblocks you might be experiencing in your sales efforts. Whether it be getting enough exposure so that people find you, maybe it's getting over a fear of rejection or feeling like you're not good enough, or fear of putting yourself out there, or whether it be actually finding the time to make enough sales, or focusing on the right activities that are actually converting for you, because every business is so different. One person could post on Instagram every day and have 30 sales, and another person, maybe that strategy just isn't going to work. So we're going to walk you through our step-by-step plan of attack. We've pulled things from my specific business at Tracy Matthews Designs, and we also pulled things from my business now, tracymatthews.com. And we pulled a lot of the sales strategy and tactics that Robin used at Dog-Eared to create sales plans and action plans to reach our sales goals. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/supercharge. That's flourishthriveacademy.com/supercharge. And you can check out the Supercharge Your Sales course. So selling your jewelry, I just want to leave you with this, should not be that hard, and it doesn't have to be. So make sure that you check out the course, because we're going to teach you how to make it a lot more effortless and a lot easier for you. It's freaking awesome course. I know you're going to love it. Make sure that you check it out. You're going to get great results. All right, so make sure that you pop on over to the show notes. We're going to have links there for everything I mentioned in this episode. You can go over to flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 54. That's flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 54. I just wanted to take this final moment to thank you for joining me today. It's been my pleasure to bring you this episode. And I really, feel so honored that I can show up and, hope that you think about us as your partners in business. We really are here to help you grow a jewelry business that works for you, that you love, and that can help you get to wherever you envision your brand to be. So check it out. Anything's possible. You guys rock. Thanks so much for listening today. And if you like what you're listening to and you haven't done so yet, we would love for you to go and subscribe to our podcast over at flourishthriveacademy.com/iTunes. And then once you're there, make sure that you rate and review the podcast and tell us what you think. All right, this is Tracy Matthews signing off. Make sure that you go check out our sponsor for today's episode. We'll have links to Nina Designs over on the show notes. And make sure that you come say hi. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, this is Tracy Matthews signing off. Take care.